You can come into your Monday morning meeting and say, guys, we are a team of accountability, a culture of accountability, and we're going to do it. But what do? It's not about what you said. Like, that's great, and you probably should talk about it. But what speaks a lot more volume is how do you handle the rest of the week?
On the show, we're going to sit down and talk about the metamorphosis that happens when you become a leader.
We'll share our biggest wins and our losses and interview other leaders to find out how they stay in charge without losing their minds.
I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Zach. Welcome to the Who's in Charge podcast. Welcome back, everybody, to the Who's in Charge podcast. And, we've talked about a lot of different things. One of the things that I'm really trying to focus in on is leveling myself up and leveling up the people around me so we can level the company up, right? Like, how do we push forward? How do we continue to grow and get better? I think sometimes I have a tendency to be like, hey, things are going well. Let's take the foot off the gas. And I think it's a matter of time before something bad happens. So I think you've got to continue to kind of push yourselves forward. How do we continue to get better? The market is going to get better around us.
I have to interrupt you for a second.
I love it.
Because wait, when things are going well, you wonder if you should be taking the foot off the gas?
Not necessarily foot off the gas, but just you have this ability to, like, things are good, right? Like things are good. Let's just kind of let them be. Like, why disrupt things if things are doing well? Versus getting in and shaking some things up, shaking some stuff up and being, hey, I know what's good.
Yeah, I don't relate to that at all. If things are going really well, I'm like, okay, why is it going well? How can we do it better? How can we do more? I don't know that I ever feel like, we can just coast right now.
Long story short, the way that I'm focusing now is like, how do we continue to get better? How do we continue to evolve and improve things like accountability and overall performance? And, just a personal example from our life. How's that saying go? It's not what you say, it's the standard that you hold, right? You could tell people till you're blue in the face, like, hey, this is due by this date. But if there's no consequence or if they get the reward on the other side of that date, then it didn't really mean anything. And we had this with our daughter. We set at the beginning of last school year, we set some academic goals. Somebody's going to get on me for bad parenting, but I'm okay with bribing my kid.
It's like a long bribe, so it's not a quick incentive.
But so we had this conversation. She wanted another animal in the house. I did not. But we set these goals. Like, we'll set some lofty goals, and if you hit these goals at the end of the year, then we'll get you this animal.
She had to get an 85 average for the year or higher in math, and then a 90 average for every other course. And this is elementary school, so not all of them were graded, but you had to get a 90 average for all the other classes, and then an 85 or higher in math. And math was kind of like the struggle, right? Like, lots of tears over math with Zach and our youngest daughter. But that was the goal. And it had to be over the average of a whole school year. So pretty challenging. What she really wanted, she wanted a cat. She really, really wanted a cat. And we're like, well, we're not going to get a cat unless you really achieve.
Yeah. And so the running joke was, what if I put all this work in and I get to the end of the year and I miss it by 1 point? And so, she's a thinker, so she's thinking about this stuff all the time. Every night before bed, like, oh, what if? She's getting cat names and all this stuff. And lo and behold, she gets to the end of the school year and she missed the mark by 1 point. And she was so disappointed and she had worked so hard. And so rather than just give in and be like, well, you got close enough, I gave her an opportunity for growth and because I ultimately don't really care. I care that she learns good habits, that she learns good study habits, that she learns to care a little bit and those sort of things. And that's what I'm really focused on. And she nailed that. So as far as I'm concerned, even though she missed the numeric goal, she hit the intention goal, which was what was most important.
But this is, I think, parenthood and leadership in general, like they align and they cross over so much. So what do you do if you say, this is what you have to get in order to get the prize? You have to hit this mark, and then they don't hit the mark. You don't want to devalue the goal in general and be like, well, you got close enough. Well, because what's the difference between 1 point or 5 points? Or what's the difference between effort and result? It sucks, right? It's terrible to have those conversations, especially if the effort has been really high and everyone worked and she worked really hard and she was thoughtful and all the all the little habits that we wanted to put in place and like help her feel like throughout the year, and like how to talk to your teacher and how to make sure you're doing your best and all these different, like all those habits were done, but then the goal was still missed. And I hate being in that scenario, because it obviously happens too in like business, where it's like, okay, this is our goal and we didn't hit it, but well, we can still,
We'll give you the
like,
bonus anyways.
yeah, like, well, you didn't hit the bonus. Well, what about the culture of it? What about the effort of it? Like, that's such a terrible zone to like land in, because you don't want to be discouraging for all the effort. But the reality is, like, you didn't win the race. You didn't place the way you like. It doesn't change that life is life. But I think the idea that you had with her specifically was really, really good. Share what we decided to do with her.
So I was able to give her a round 2. And so again, trying to come up with goals that better align with what the behavior is that you want. And so I think there's a struggle for probably most students as you go from one school year into the next school year and you sit around for 3 months and do absolutely nothing. So I wanted to kind of,
yeah.
And long story short, she was kind of behind in certain areas of where she needed to kind of catch up. But so I gave her round 2, goal 2. Here we go. There's a whole summer workbook. And if you can complete the summer workbook within this amount of time, then that'll make up for that 1 point difference. And you'll unlock and unleash this dog. That was
that's
the
a whole other
conversation. So she went for the extra credit program and she got it. And actually, lo and behold, today was delivery day. So today she had her dog delivered, her reward delivered.
But all of a sudden, it was no longer a cat. It became a dog. So the stakes were a little bit higher. Cats are very independent. Getting a puppy is way different than getting a kitten, I think. She missed the goal by a point. She did the extra credit activity, earned the animal, upped the ante, and got a dog instead. And the dog got delivered today, and she's pretty dang cute.
So super cute. And I mean, I think, like you said, there's so many kind of similarities in life and leadership. Right? You're leading at home. You're responsible for these children and kind of raising them the right way, setting goals, keeping them motivated, and encouraged, and ultimately to be self-sufficient, to be able to get out there and to be able to set goals and find their inner, like you're not getting a dog every year. Like, I want you to get these grades, and now you've proved, and my biggest thing for myself, if anybody wants to get to me with bribing, is what was most important to me was that she proved to herself that she could do it, because she didn't think she could. I believed in her that she could. She didn't believe in herself. So this whole bribery thing now has a whole mindset shift to the idea of this is what is possible, and she knows what is possible for her from here on out. And so, but anyways, there's a lot of those similar lessons to your team, to your sales team, to be able to set goals and to be able to hold people accountable. And it's not nice. I remember back in my PA days, we got bonuses based off of percentage of like 5-star reviews or whatever the hell they were. You had to get 5-star reviews, and your reviews had to have 75% of them had to have 5 stars. If it was 4 stars, it didn't count. And you got a bonus if it was 75%. So I worked for 6 months to try to increase my revenue, my output as much as I could, see as many patients as you could to kind of get through the place as efficiently as possible. And the goal was 75, and you got your bonus. And my thing came out to 74.6 or 74.7. So if you round up, I'm at 75 and I get my bonus. And that place did not round up. And I remember sitting in that, like, the executive office. I went to the White Towers for that crap and was like, we're going to talk about this. And I did not win. And so that hard line of accountability was important. Then you know what the goal is and you know what that standard is. So if you set a standard, but you don't maintain that standard, if you don't hold somebody to that standard, it's no longer a standard. So that is one good leadership lesson that I took away from there. I will say the demoralizing fact, I don't like to be a negative person, but you do want to be careful about demoralizing your people. Make sure that your goals and the accountability that you're setting up are reaching you and fulfilling your purpose. Because I'll tell you, the way I did work from that day forward shifted. And I don't know, we can get into that another day. But
well, what did it shift? What, were you pissed?
Yeah. So I was really pissed. So I worked extremely hard and stressed out to be as efficient as possible. Like to the point where for 6 months, did not take a lunch break. For 6 months, I questioned whether I had the opportunity to go urinate or not. Like for 6 months, I would not talk to an employee that was not specifically about work for any more than 3 seconds because like I've got to get somebody else in, and the idea of like I'm going to get this bonus, and then that bonus was out. And so my patient care probably went up. My time with the patients went up. So just be careful that like what metric you're measuring is actually getting the result that you want. So now my throughput, instead of seeing 60 patients a day, might be 30 patients a day. And those 30 patients are going to get the absolute best care and time with me at that moment. But anyways.
But you're going to see fewer patients. Yeah.
I'm going to pee and not think badly about it.
Well, I think you should either way. I mean, that should be part of it, right? Like you got to have the little self-care in between all the things. But I think part of the importance in setting goals and being able to toe the accountability of whether you hit them or whether you don't is also making them achievable. Like they've got to be a little bit of a stretch so that we're challenged and, we're pushing things forward. We're being creative so that we can hit the goal and navigating surprises and things like that. But everybody has to have buy-in that like, okay, this is achievable. We can do this. And if we do X, then Y will happen. There is this kind of harsh reality that you can't negotiate the goal over and over again. And that I think is specifically hard for us as entrepreneur leaders versus like a corporate leader, because entrepreneurs, we're here ready to break the rules. Like we're like, why is the rule the rule? We should do something different. Like we can make up whatever we want. Like the rules are meant to be broken. And then
rules don't apply to me.
Right? You're like, well, tell me I can't do it and I will. And then all of a sudden you're like, well, shoot, we have to kind of the rules have to have some sort of integrity. Otherwise everything's up for discussion. And then it's very overwhelming. And then I start burning out. If every goal and every decision can be negotiated, like, oh my God. Well, like your example, we have to hit 75% to get it. Well, what if it, and you got 74.6? Well, what if it was 74? Or what if it was 73? Like, where's the line of negotiation now? Is it ever like just yes or no? Like, of course, if you won at 74.6 and the next time you got 74.2, you're going to come back and be like, listen, I got 74.2 last time you rounded up.
We all argue for our own position because I will still argue with this, just like I argued with him. Damn it, it's math.
Right.
It's 74.5. That's the line. But anyways, right. Their line was 75, not 74.5.
It's tough. It's so agonizing. I specifically have a hard time with this, because for me, like you just mentioned, effort is probably the most important thing, like effort and culture. And if we have the effort and we are doing the things that we think will result in the outcome that we want, and then you still kind of like you just miss or like you miss it, and you're like, oh, I want to reward the effort because the effort was the most important thing to me. But I think this is why I struggle with it, because we still have to get the outcome. If we don't hit the goal or like have the revenue that we need to make payroll, like the team members aren't going to be like, well, I understand. Like, I know we all
so
tried.
No paychecks this week, right?
It's okay. Don't pay
hard.
Me. I know you tried really hard. And your employees are going to be like, well, please, I need my paycheck. Right. And so there has to be some sort of integrity on the goals that we set. Otherwise, like literally revenue will dissolve, and we have to make really difficult decisions if we don't hit that part of the goal. So you have to have integrity. And I think that's the thing that sucks the most as a leader is like drawing that line and being like, we didn't hit it.
Right.
That means we don't get it. It means we have to do something different. And to your point of like the extra workbook, I think that there should be some sort of like consolation activity, like to still reward the effort and like have the culture being built. But I think what everybody wants in the end is the paycheck and the bonus and that level of celebration. And it's our job as leaders to figure out, to walk that line and then set goals that we can celebrate and to be conservative with our metrics so that it's not demoralizing. Like, back a few years ago when I did a lot more consulting and quarterly meetings, there was always this temptation to be like, we're going to double. quarter over a quarter. We did 20 contracts last month or last quarter. This quarter, we're doing 40. And I was like, that sounds really exciting in this meeting to be like, we're going to double. But if you don't actually feel, if it's not supported by what you can actually do in a quarter, now you have to, we're going to be sitting here 3 months later and be like, damn it, we didn't make it. And that sucks way more. I would way rather set a conservative goal and then hit it and then celebrate and then go, move forward than making it sound really nice to say we're going to do X and then we fail. Like, I'd much rather be conservative. I think I've been criticized like that as a leader because I'm like, people want to hear this big grand vision and like this explosive growth. And I am scared of not hitting goals. And that's way more devastating to me, that it is to not hit a goal and then have to look around the table and be like, we didn't hit it, you guys. Dang it. Now we were counting on that. And so now we can't do X because we didn't hit it. I'd much rather set a smaller goal that I'm like, we're going to friggin' crush this and feel super good about crushing it than putting our neck out too far.
Yeah. I mean, SMART goals. I think we did an episode on goals and goal setting and SMART goals, right? There's an R in there for a reason. A realistic, goal is part of that. And so it's finding that fine line balance. Just a little plug for data, right? The better data you have, the better you can actually make a decision. Like, where do you come up with a goal, right? Did you just pull it out of your rear end? Because double sounds good. Why would I not want double?
Well, Sally down the street, they're doing it and they're dumb. So we can do it better.
Right? Versus having some sort of data to kind of back up those decisions. The importance of a time frame of these goals is we're going to talk, because I want to talk a lot about accountability today, but as you're setting the goals, right, we'll talk about the accountability, but having a timeline that's not demoralizing, right? So for my daughter's example, like she's young, she's 11 years old. I gave her essentially a 1-year goal that then she missed out on. Pretty defeated. If I gave her an additional 1-year goal at 11 years old, how likely are you to remain focused on something for 24 months?
Well, to kind of get for her, like she got like semester, like we were tracking and like celebrating along the way, like, oh, luckily you did so good, like on that test or on that term, and like you're doing it. Like, so it wasn't just like we were waiting to evaluate a year later. Like she had
we're going to talk about we're going to talk about that, but I'm talking about for the person, so not from the leadership standpoint, from the person on the receiving end. I've waited because I love it when you tell me good job too, but that shit only goes so far. Damn it, I wanted a cat. Mommy's little congratulations, you got a good grade on a test, only goes so far. So if you make them wait too long. And so one of the things that, for example, with our acquisitions team, I made a little bit of a shift. Like you could have an annual goal, right? Like bust your butt for a year. And at the end of the year, we'll give you a bonus. But getting a little hit of dopamine and reward along the way, I think is a lot. Think about, now we're talking about training a puppy, right? Like you've got the closer you can give the reward to the event, the better off you are. So like we do monthly bonuses, for example, for the sales team, because I know that I'm asking you to run out on 10 appointments that you don't know if you're going to get a contract, and I know that that's a pain in the butt and that commission is a big portion of your life. And I want you to be motivated to get out there. And despite the fact you just heard no 9 times, get out there for the 10th time because that's your one, baby. And so I don't want to go too deep into goal setting, but like you do want to make sure that you do have a realistic goal that's time bound for the purpose that you're looking at to actually reward the behavior. Do I have this reward loop, feedback loop in a short enough time period? But I think the focus really right now for today is like to talk about a little bit about accountability and how you can hold your team a little bit more accountable. And I think first and foremost, I think it starts with the idea of culture and the idea of removing this concept of accountability being a bad word. I think it could be a bad word for a lot of people, but setting the culture of the organization that it's not a bad word, in that it's just how we operate and it's not personal. When you set it as the standard of the company and it's not personal, it's not emotional, it's data driven, you said you were going to do X by Y, are we on track or not? Talk about your thoughts on culture and how does a company set this up, especially if you've already in an existing company that has maybe accountability as a bad word or not doing well with accountability. How do you make that shift in a company to like, this is the culture now?
I think it's hard to pick up, hard to answer that. Like if you're just picking up a team versus if you're building a team,
Right?
versus changing culture of a team. I think the best way to influence behavior in general is with positivity and with finding ways to win and to celebrate versus finding reasons to criticize. Of course, criticism is part of it, like, and feedback and grading is part of everybody. Like every industry, every sport, every you review tape and you're like, what could we have done better? So it has to be invited, and I think that does have to be normalized. I think the best way to start with it on an individual basis is in private. Find reasons to praise, and then have something that people can work on and build on it. I don't think you can eat the elephant all in one sitting. That you have to give like incremental feedback, which means that you as a leader, you have to remember, like you have to know where you are on this like path to correction or path to growth, so that you don't turn into a toxic boss. And I think if you find yourself in a place where you are not making forward progress, and it's not the outcome that you're hoping for is just not clicking, and you have a culture or an allowance of not hitting goals, or being unable to hold people accountable because they just don't receive it well, or they don't know what to do next, or uh, at some point, sometimes you have to get those people out of your organization, which I think can be a really, really difficult move. Even I remember we had this, like our very top salesperson at Better Path years ago was a phenomenal salesperson, but really bad culturally, right? Like couldn't take feedback, really defensive, like wanted to be on their own island. And you're like, you're not a fit. Like if I can't say anything to you and you can't say anything to them, and like we can't work together, even though you're bringing in revenue, like you can't be here. It's not a fit, you know? Those calls I think are really difficult, but yeah, I think you lead with positivity as much as you can. That can be celebrating smaller increments. Like, hey, you set an appointment. Like, let's celebrate. You set an appointment where drop all the GIFs. Like, like having multiple checkpoints of celebration, and that positivity definitely pays off. And then having some private time to like review tape and like, this is where we could get better.
Yeah. So I love that. The biggest thing I'm hearing right from the get-go is the idea. We talked at the earlier part of this podcast, like it's not about what you say, it's about what you do. It's about what you tolerate. You can come into your Monday morning meeting and say, guys, we are a team of accountability, a culture of accountability, and we're going to do it. But what do? It's not about what you said. Like that's great, and you probably should talk about it in an all hands meeting into a thing. But what speaks a lot more volume is how do you handle the rest of the week? The last book review we did, well done is better than well said. You could say it really well in a meeting, but are you following up with that to actually hold people accountable? And then, yes, you've heard this before, praise publicly, criticize privately. And this is like really kind of a take part 2 from last week's. Last week we talked about meeting and meeting cadences. And really, I think accountability, this is like part 2 to that. So, A, you got to know which meetings, we talked about that last week, which meetings do you need, who should be in those meetings, but then what are those meetings for? And some of those meetings are for accountability. Accountability to a big goal, like you said, or just accountability to, like last week we identified this problem. We discussed that this was the solution, and this solution was going to be done by who, by when, right? And here we are. How are we? Are we progressing towards that or not? And if we are repeatedly missing, like I said, it's even the small things. How you do the small things is how you do one thing is how you do everything, right? And so if you're not hitting those goals, if you're not hitting that target of completing that task, and I don't give a shit, and it's like, oh, it's another week, okay, another week, okay, another week. Like now it doesn't matter that you came into your all hands meeting talking about accountability. Everybody's seeing it not take place. So that's how you set up that culture to begin with. And then those meeting cadences, we talked last week, I think, about one-on-one meetings as well. And that sets the opportunity every week for you to be able to have those time to coach. I don't even necessarily want to say critique, right? But like to coach accountability in private. Like it's already on my calendar. It's not a weird thing to be like, hey, Stephanie, why don't you come into my office on Friday and we'll talk about some things, right? Like it's already on there. And so you have these spots where it's not awkward to kind of pull somebody in, and you have those frequent opportunities to coach on accountability before something gets so far along that you're like, I'm going to murder this person. How can they not do this 6 weeks in a row, even though I didn't say anything for 6 weeks? But yeah, so the culture and the meeting cadence, I think, is important. I've got some thoughts on meetings, you're such an expert in this field. So
On meetings.
on meetings and accountability, right? Like, I mean, like that should be a portion of that, right? Like we go in, we review our rocks, we review our goals, and are we on track or off track? That's all about, if it's done right, if it's done well, accountability.
I think it depends on what your team looks like and what they need from you. Like, for example, if you're leading leaders or if you're leading individual contributors, I think the approach is a little bit different. What you're talking about on like meeting cadence and accountability is like basically how to be a good manager. You know, like people need good management, and they need to understand what activities equal success. And then they need help iterating from there, and like holding people accountable to that level stuff is extremely important. Kind of where I'm at now, and so I think probably where my interest lies as well is now I have found myself being a leader of leaders, and some of the things that I've noticed in really, really strong leaders is that they will take the overall mission and the quarterly goal, the annual goal, and then the quarterly goal of what we're trying to do as an executive team, and be able to distill it into their department level goals, and then show people the way of how they're going to achieve those goals. So I don't find myself being the one anymore to being like, this is how we're going to break down this goal into this department to like the individual contributor level. I expect the leaders to do that. And what I've noticed around good leaders, obviously, is that they're the ones that are able to break that goal down and communicate it. But they're also really, really good at the why behind it, like how this goal contributes to the overall goal of the company. And it makes me think of Jocko Willink and his example. But the specific thing that he talked about in that book, I believe, was this mission of telling a team in a war zone to go into this building and then get to the roof and then call me. You got to go. You're in the middle of a line of fire. You've got a team of 7. You need to go to that building and get on the roof, right? And the story is that the team and the team leader get to the stairwell, but they cannot get to the roof. Like they cannot there is no roof access. So with those instructions, the team is like trying to call the leader. What do I do? And they can't get a hold of the leader, and they're stuck, and they're like literally sitting ducks. Right? Do you remember the story?
Yeah. So this is actually personal training. This is when we went in the whole team.
Is this when Jocko's team? I thought it was from the book. But anyway, okay. So he's talking about that scenario. I guess this was when we did this in-person thing with Jocko, which is really cool too. But so that was the mission, right? And that was the instruction from the leader, is to get to the roof and call me. And then the team, which was doing exactly as they were told, couldn't. And now they ended up shot and killed. They're sitting ducks. But if the leader gave the instructions, hey, I want you to go to the roof of this building and look east because you're looking for this team walking down the road, and you're providing backup for them. Like, so the next team is coming down on the road from the whatever it was, the east side. So look for them and provide them backup. That was the goal. So you didn't just tell them what to do. You told them why they're doing it and how it's contributing to the overall mission. So now that same team, they go and they try to get on the roof, but they can't get on the roof. And they're like, oh, well, we got to go from this level. We got to enter in the top level that we can and see if there's windows and go look out the window. And then they were still able to successfully complete their mission because they understood the why behind what they're doing and how it contributes. And it empowered the team to be creative, And so super high stakes situation, like you're in the middle of line of fire and you're like going to die or you're not going to die. And I think the way I relate to it is in high pressure situations, and like you're busy, you got so much to do, you gave the task that you needed somebody to do so they could just do it and we could all move on. But in fact, it didn't, and it rarely goes exactly as you think it's going to go. And then you fail, even though you gave clear instructions, because something happened that you never anticipated, nor could you have ever anticipated. So I feel very inspired by that, because I think the true success comes when you have decentralized command and people who know how to iterate and be creative and find a way to be successful and are empowered to find a way to be successful. And I think it's way more difficult to say than to do, because in the middle of life, in the middle of everything, like there's a lot of competing noise and whirlwind. And it's hard to communicate to that level, but obviously it can be the difference of succeeding or not.
Yeah. That's one of my favorite lessons, and I've done that. I've tried to do that. I'll get into the idea of impatience. I've tried to do that all the way through my career. Like we talked about, as I was a PA and training other people, that's actually one of my favorite things to do. I want to get back to coaching and training. But, somebody would come to you with a question of like, well, this person's got this. What do I give them? And I would never like to just like give you the answer, like, oh, well, here's the answer and move on. Like, I want to be able to give you the reasons why you're doing this versus that, so that you can, because I never give a shit about one thing. I never give a shit about one deal, this sounds bad, about one patient. And I do give a shit about every patient, but I don't give a shit about giving you the right answer for that one patient. I care about training you as a provider that not only does this patient get the right response, every patient you see after gets that. And, translating that into our team, we're doing a flip renovation, and I did you helped me with it yesterday, a little AI design, threw the AI design back at him, and then realized that there's a lot of things in that picture that like, no, those were not my ideas. But if I gave him that as the picture, like, no, actually, just to make sure, I don't want a recessed light in that room, just so you know. But then also explain to him, because we do new build construction, I'm like, but if it was new build construction, 1,000,000%, you better damn well put a light right there. And here's the reasons why. Like, I think the room needs a light. However, this is a quick flip. We're not doing electric. I'm not ripping the ceiling out and running new shit. It's just not worth it. So it's not that it's a bad idea. It's a bad idea for this situation. But in this situation, it does work. And then they can go forward and make all the decisions.
This is the concept versus this is the blueprint, right?
Right. Yeah. And I think those things, they seem like so small, but I think they're so big. And especially for us entrepreneurs that by nature, whether you're looking at a disc test or what, so like, oh yeah, that's an impatient guy that's going to make quick decisions. Like, that's who I want for that role. But then they like, it also nips us in the ass when we're like, oh, I don't have time to talk to anybody about the details of any of that stuff, right? Like, just go. And then our people are out there not with the right information. So forcing yourself to slow down, to actually be able to teach and make those decisions.
For me, what that translates to is what we do is tied to outcomes.
Yeah.
So for example, we need to hit this goal in number of outbound calls, because that's going to result in this number of appointments being set. And our goal is to go on X amount of appointments. So the tasks that we do are tied to the outcome, which is, always on a global level tied to revenue to some degree, right? Like, that's the ultimate, like, it's got to be tied to revenue to some degree, or else it's like, well, what the heck are we doing it for? If this is a company that's supposed to be revenue positive. So I have always, I've always thought that way and tried to work with, my leadership team, and like, is everything we're doing tied to an outcome, or are we finding ourselves like chasing rabbits and like tasks, and like, then we get lost in the sauce. There's a million tasks that could be done at any given time, but like, what's even important? How you prioritize things and how you lump things together is generally tied to an overall goal or an overall outcome. So that's the only way I personally know how to stay sane. And I think that's a really important leadership skill to have for everybody on your team. And then that helps you be a better manager, because now you're actually doing stuff that matters and your people know what the heck they're doing and why it matters. And then when it invariably doesn't go as you plan, you know what to do next, because you know what you're actually, like, the end goal is that you're trying to achieve. So anyway, I think that accountability touches all those different aspects of management, leadership, goal setting.
And I think to go next level too, I think it's important to know why am I doing this? How does this relate to all of the company purpose, et cetera, to make me feel like I'm an important part of this, an important piece. But I get frustrated when managers and leaders don't take that next step to try to go personal to the individual. Why does this matter? Like, yes, this is what matters because of X, Y, and Z. CRM management is one, right? Like, hey, Mr. Rep, it's important that you put the notes in there so that I can review it when I get home. Like, okay, doesn't sell it to him. Like,
Right.
okay, kind of don't give a huge shit about you and being able to micromanage the CRM when I get home. Like, so maybe that's not going to be a priority for me. Versus like making it personal. Why is this important to you? Like, my goal as a leader is to be able to get you enough leads that you can't freaking remember everything. There's zero chance that you're going to be able to remember all of these details when it's important for you to close the deal 11 days from now. So in order for you to get paid on your thing, to have the right information, here's what's going to be able to get you the deal. You need to have that here so that you can actually close the deal. Like, somehow, like, bringing things back to the person of it's great, fits into the company and it's going to help the company with this. But like, when at all possible, think that next step and give them hope and direction into why does this matter for me? Is this going to make my life better or your life better? Because I'm going to do things a little bit more important, like a little bit more adamantly when it makes my life better, which, sometimes as managers, we do want to be like, BITCH, because I said so. That's why it's important. Just do it. But if you can add in a little piece of like, this is what's going to make your life better. This is what's going to help you hit your goals better.
For sure.
Is an important piece to that.
For sure. We're all people and we all prioritize our goals and our comfort way more than anything else. So it definitely needs to be tied to that.
Maybe my final little thoughts on accountability. Knowing what the data points are and having a clear handle on where I'm supposed to be at any given time. What I mean by that is like, all right, the longer the time frame of the goal, the more lofty it is, the more like, we'll do it tomorrow, we'll get it another day, it's not a big deal. But the more finite you can make it in time, the easier it is to be like, do I need to step shit up? Am I on track or am I not on track? So a real simple thing, every week when we're going through our meetings, I want to know what week are we in the quarter and how much percent is that the way through the quarter? If it's 50% of the way through the quarter, because like you show up to the meeting like, okay, I'm 20% done my goal. Like, okay, get that other 80, go ahead. Versus like, we're 10% through the quarter, I'm 20% of the way to my goal. Like, freaking sweet, awesome. What are you, like you said, what are you doing? What's working super well? And let's make sure that we're continuing to do more of that. Versus I'm 20% of the way through my goal, we're 50% of the way through the quarter. Like, oh shit, how are we going to meet this?
How are we going to recover?
Right. Another like quick example, then I'll let you add on, is I've got 1,000 leads is my goal for the quarter. Like, how many is that a day? You know what I mean? Even looking at like a day by day basis, like that means that we should be getting X number of leads in. I'm not going to do the math right now. Don't put me on the spot. But that's X number of leads per day. And you can see a little bit closer of like, this is the end of the week and we're getting 4 leads a day and we're supposed to be getting 14 leads a day. Like, you can see when and where you need to focus your attention. Because again, the goals are supposed to get you to where you want, or else it's a shit goal anyways, and it shouldn't be on the list. If it doesn't matter, take it off the list. Stop worrying about it. But if it is important, and that's what it's going to take to be able to get you to the damn goal, like, pay attention to it and know when you're out of alignment so you can start to take activity. And this, again, part 2 to our damn conversation about meetings last week, this is what you need to be focused on in the meeting. It's not a meeting just to report the number. You could have sent me an email that you're 30% way through. Like, what are we going to do now that we're not? Now we need to IDS what's going on.
I think whether you are an individual contributor, whether you're a manager, whether you're a leader, whether you are a CEO, COO, C-suite, whatever, I think these are really important concepts. And if you find yourself not understanding the overall mission or how these goals are tying into them, then you need to ask who, no matter where you are in the organization. And if you aren't getting this clarity, I think you need to build that clarity for yourself, because otherwise it's really difficult to be consistent and to stay in the right mindset that you need to be in order to achieve the goal. So if you aren't getting the accountability that you need from those around you, you got to create it for yourself.